The following tale is plucked from the pages of a nameless tome, a manuscript whispered of in hushed tones by those who dare tread too close to the edge of sanity. It is said that merely speaking of the events you are about to hear invites danger beyond reckoning. For these are the deeds and misdeeds of souls whose fates were sealed the moment they crossed into shadowed realms where darkness reigns eternal. Be warned, listener, do not repeat what you hear to others. Do not commit these words to memory, nor linger on the images conjured within your mind. To do so is to risk incurring the wrath of, well, perhaps it is best if I leave the name unspoken. Even now, it claws at the corners of my mind. Know this, should you choose to continue, you do so at your own peril. And remember, you have been warned. This is a tale called The Price of Desire. The market of lost souls was a place whispered about only in half-forgotten legends, a dark bazaar hidden within the cracks of reality. It existed at the fringes of human awareness, surfacing only for those desperate enough to seek it out. Beneath an eternal twilight sky, twisted vendors hawked wares of unspeakable origins, objects cursed, enchanted, or filled with malice. It was there that Isabella Thorpe, a woman of fading beauty and ambition, found herself one fateful evening. Her eyes, once vibrant and full of life, now reflected only desperation. Her fortunes had crumbled, her marriage dissolved, and her influence dwindled to the barest flicker. But Isabella was not ready to fade into obscurity. No, she would fight to reclaim what was once hers, even if it meant venturing into this nightmarish place. A vendor, his face concealed by a veil of smoke and shadow, extended a withered hand. His stall was cluttered with items that seemed to pulse with a life of their own, a mirror that reflected nothing but darkness, a ring that whispered secrets in a tongue that made the bones ache, and at the center, an object that caught Isabella's gaze, a dagger. Its blade shimmered with an ethereal light, casting eerie reflections that seemed to warp and twist in the dim air. The hilt, engraved with delicate runes, beckoned her closer. Vendor, his voice a low rasp, ah, the dagger of perdition. An object of great power and great cost. It chooses its wielder, and you, my dear, have caught its eye. Isabella's breath caught in her throat as her fingers hovered above the blade. There was something magnetic about it, something that spoke to the yearning in her soul. She knew, instinctively, that this dagger held the key to regaining everything she had lost. Isabella, softly, almost to herself, what is the price? The vendor's laughter echoed like the rustling of dead leaves. Vendor, the price is complicated. But for one such as you, it is simple, the dagger will give you what you desire. Wealth, power, influence, whatever your heart craves. But be warned, every gift it grants will take something in return. And once you accept, there is no turning back. Her mind spun with possibilities. The thought of her former glory, of all she could achieve, pushed aside the vendor's warning. Without hesitation, she reached out and grasped the dagger. The moment her fingers curled around the hilt, a searing pain shot through her arm. She gasped, but did not let go. The runes on the blade flared, burning a pattern into her palm. Vendor, smiling beneath the smoke, the bond is sealed. Good luck, Miss Thorpe. You'll need it. Over the next few weeks, the dagger's influence became apparent. Every time Isabella wielded it, her luck shifted. Deals that had been closed to her suddenly reopened, lost connections were rekindled, and rivals who had once looked down on her fell silent in the wake of her success. The dagger cut through obstacles, both literal and figurative, with ease. But with each victory, there were consequences. The first was a minor inconvenience. A business partner suffered a stroke just days after signing a lucrative contract that had nearly slipped through Isabella's fingers. She dismissed it as a coincidence. The second was harder to ignore. A former colleague, who had snubbed her attempts at reconciliation, fell mysteriously ill. No doctor could determine the cause. And then came the third, her estranged sister, the only family Isabella still had, vanished without a trace. Isabella, staring at the dagger's blade, her voice trembling, "What have I done?" Yet even as fear crept in, so did a twisted sense of satisfaction. The dagger had delivered exactly what she wanted. She was once again a figure of power and respect, untouchable, unassailable. It was only a matter of time before the cost would become too great. It happened on a cold, moonless night. Isabella sat alone in her study, the dagger resting on the desk before her. The air was thick, oppressive, pressing down on her chest like a vice. She could barely breathe. Something was wrong. The shadows in the room shifted, twisting and writhing like living things. And then, with a chill that froze her blood, she heard it, a voice, low and sinister, emanating from the dagger itself. Dagger's voice, "You have taken much. But what have you given?" Isabella's heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the blade. The runes along its surface pulsed with a sickly, malevolent light. Isabella, whispering, her voice breaking, I didn't know. But the dagger's voice cut her off, cold and merciless. Dagger's voice, "Ignorance does not absolve you, Isabella. For every gain, there must be loss. And you have taken far more than you were ever meant to. The scales must be balanced." A chill crept up her spine as the shadows around her deepened. Faces formed within them, twisted, tormented faces. Her sister's eyes stared at her from the darkness, hollow and accusing. Sister's voice, a distorted whisper, "You took my life, for your ambition." The faces multiplied, her business partner, her colleague, even people she hadn't known personally but who had somehow been affected by the dagger's power. Isabella, sobbing, clutching the dagger, "No, no, I didn't mean for this. I only wanted." The dagger pulsed again, its voice rising in a terrible crescendo. Dagger's voice, "You wanted, and you took. Now you must give in return." The shadows surged forward, wrapping around Isabella's wrists and ankles. She struggled, but it was as if the darkness itself had come alive, pulling her down, deeper and deeper into an abyss that had no end. She screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the void. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in her study. Instead, she found herself standing in a desolate landscape, a place devoid of light, hope, or life. The ground beneath her feet was cracked and barren, and the sky above was an endless expanse of darkness. And there, in the distance, she saw it, a twisted version of herself. A shadowy, withered form, holding the dagger. The reflection of all she had become. The figure turned slowly, eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Reflection, "You wanted everything, and now, you will have nothing." Isabella staggered back, her pulse racing. What is this place?" But the reflection only smiled, a smile filled with malice and pity. "Reflection, this is where the greedy come to die. This is the void of ambition, the prison of those who take without giving. And you, Isabella, will remain here, forever." The dagger in her hand twisted, the runes flaring one final time. Pain lanced through her body, and she fell to her knees, gasping as the shadow of herself stepped closer. Back in the market of lost souls, the vendor watched as a new figure approached his stall, a young man with eyes full of hope and a heart full of dreams. The vendor's gaze fell upon the dagger, now resting on the display, its blade gleaming softly. Vendor, smiling beneath the veil of smoke, the dagger of perdition, an object of great power and great cost. Perhaps you, my dear, would be interested in its gifts? The young man hesitated, staring at the blade, unaware of the faint whispers echoing from its depths, the whispers of a woman, trapped in darkness, who had once craved everything. Her voice, filled with torment and regret, murmured just beyond the edge of hearing. Isabella's voice, echoing from the dagger's runes, a chilling whisper, "Help me, please, don't touch it. It's a lie, all of it." But the young man's eyes were drawn to the blade, his mind clouded by dreams of what it could bring him, riches, influence, the power to shape his destiny. He reached out, his fingers trembling slightly as they brushed the dagger's hilt. The vendor leaned in closer, the faint glow of his eyes visible beneath the shadows that concealed his face. "Vendor, do not hesitate. The dagger chooses its master, and it has chosen you. Whatever you desire, it will give. Whatever you lack, it will provide. It can make you whole." The young man glanced up, uncertainty flickering across his face. But the dagger's runes pulsed softly, filling the air with a soothing, mesmerizing glow. A subtle warmth spread through his fingertips as he tightened his grip, and the doubt in his eyes melted away. "Young man," voice steady, a hint of eagerness, "I'll take it." The vendor's smile widened, his teeth glinting like shards of bone. "Vendor, very well. But remember, my dear, every gift comes at a price." As the young man lifted the dagger, a shiver ran down his spine, a fleeting sensation, like the breath of a cold wind. For a moment, he thought he heard a distant cry, a woman's voice pleading in the darkness. But it faded as quickly as it had come, drowned out by the intoxicating promise of power. The vendor's laughter, low and ominous, echoed through the twisted alleys of the market. The dagger's blade glowed brighter, and from deep within, the faintest whisper of a soul trapped in eternal torment rose, mingling with the murmurs of countless others who had once believed they could master the dagger's insatiable hunger. The market of lost souls pulsed with dark energy as the cycle began anew. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this tale. I hope you enjoyed the story and felt immersed in this world of fantasy and adventure. If you'd like to hear more epic stories like this, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you never miss the next chapter in our journey. See you in the next adventure.